Good morning, everyone. Just a moment. Good morning, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, I think now. My name is Raghav, and I'm co-founder at Doko Recyclers. So basically, Doko Recyclers is a social initiative in waste management. We work in dry recyclable. So basically, our focus is in segregating dry recyclable and sending it to factories. I'll briefly go through, so my presentation has three parts. Initially, I'll talk about our work, what we do. Second part will be about the problem, where the opportunity lies for all of us, because there's quite a lot of problem in waste sector. And the third part is we will see some video footages from India, because they have actually kind of demonstrated and documented some of the solutions in waste management. So we'll get to see all that. So initially, I'll talk about Doko Recyclers. So how exactly we work? I'll give you a very brief example. Like for example, this is Hotel Himalaya. So how will we work in context like this, Hotel Himalaya? So what we do is, we come, we set up the entire waste management system for this hotel. So what we mean by setting up entire waste management means, we train the staff. First initial step is training the staff. Training means a person should know what is recyclable, what is non-recyclable. A person should know what is compostable waste and what is trash. Trash means the waste which goes to directly to landfill, which you cannot do anything. So that's what we do, and we just collect the dry recyclables from this place, like in case if you work with them. And then what happens is, dry recyclable is like commodity, it offers values. So what we have seen in our traditional system, kabadis, like what we have all around in our homes, who come to our homes and pick up recyclables. So this is actually, recyclable materials are like commodity items. It has value in market. So when you sell, there's a margin in it. So that's a business model where we worked on, and we earn money out of that. So we are trying to create a sustainable model out of the entire waste, let's say, stream and system. We are currently working, with more than 70 clients. This is based in Kathmandu Valley. We also offer e-waste disposal service. So e-waste is a pretty new source for Nepal right now, because we don't have any mechanism to deal with electronic waste. E-waste means all kind of waste which runs on electricity or batteries. So these kind of waste needs further care. It cannot be handled by a local scrap dealer or in a general context. Apart from that, our main work is, over the last 1.5 years, we found that waste is a problem because people are not aware about waste. Like we don't know exactly what waste is, like how do we handle waste. So that is the biggest challenge for us as a company. And we are trying to sort it out by at least doing awareness part. So wherever we work, we conduct awareness, we conduct training programs, and we go to schools, universities. We conduct multiple training and programs in a year. Apart from that, shredding services. So in Nepal till now, we have many offices who like to burn their confidential documents. That is a very general practice, even till today, which is like harmful for the nature, and at the same time you're losing on recyclables. So it's a loss. So what we introduced is, we get shredding machines to your facility, we shred the document, and we recycle the paper. So it's a very efficient solution, And the last part is upcycling brand, Tatwa. So what we did is, in Nepal, we import quite a lot of liquor bottles from outside, like wine bottles, foreign liquor bottles. So we don't have any solution, because we don't have a glass recycling factory in our country. And often these kind of waste, they land up in landfill. So what we did is, recently we started creating products out of wine bottles. And we have kind of branded them nicely so that people like it. These are very regular products which you might put it in your household to decor your item. So creating a market out of waste. The types of waste we collect. So we don't have any problem with paper. Any kind of paper is recyclable. Even small bills, even whatever, ATM slips, you can put it in recycled bin and it can be recycled. Plastic itself is a very, let's say, it's a very big stream of pollution in today's context, but we'll get deeper into plastic later on, because I'll explain briefly about plastics. Metal, there's no problem with recycling any kind of metal. So metal means in day-to-day life we use cans, we use, let's say, small tools which are made out of metal, which can be recycled. Electronic waste. Till now, we have a system of hoarding electronic waste in our home. Suppose you have an old computer, you won't recycle it. You'll just keep it in your home. Because you feel that, we all feel actually, because we bought it for like, let's say, 50,000, 30,000. And when we sell it to recycler, they will pay you at max 100 rupees, 150 rupees, because there's no value as such in terms of recycling. It itself is a very long process, and we really cannot offer value for such waste. The last part is glass and batteries. So glass, as I said, it has some problems because we don't have a factory in our country right now. And the good part is most of this recyclable items are consumed within our country. We don't have to send it to India right now because there are paper factories, we have small scale plastic factories, we have metal factories. We have problem with electronic waste because we don't have a recycling factory in Nepal. We also document how we save resources. So what happens, what does exactly recycling do? So recycling, suppose for example paper. So when we cut trees and we make paper, so we kind of use some resources. But when we reuse the same paper, recycle them and make things out of it, then we save resources. So there are standard calculations to document this kind of transaction. So we have used some standard calculations and we present these to our clients. So whenever you recycle with us, we weigh the amount, what we get, and we put it in our system which calculates the impact. So you can literally see your impact when you recycle your waste. The overall focus is obviously to increase recycling rates in our country because it helps in circular economy. Circular economy means when we start using resources within our economy. Like you're not importing raw materials from outside, from a third country and using in your factories. So when you use your own resources, then it kind of contributes to your economy. So that was the initial part about our work. Now we'll cover 4 subjects. One is plastic pollution, burning of waste, electronic waste and hazardous waste, segregation at source. So all these problems, whenever we talk about problem, I'm sure there's a gap, there's a solution which needs to be found. Because we ourselves, we kind of saw the gap because people want to segregate their waste, but there's no system to collect it. Like a truck wala will come and he will just, they will come and they will just put all kind of waste. They will take it somewhere and they will sort it out. So there's no incentive for us to actually segregate the waste. So that's how we saw the gap and we came in. So similarly, there are gaps in all these kind of problems. These are some of what I showed in the last slide. So some representation from our own country, different places. Can you tell me which one is the odd one? Yes, which is the odd one out of 3, out of 4? Yes, 3 is the odd one because rest 3 is like in one direction, third one is actually what we are supposed to do. So pollution exactly, it's a new term because for us 10 years back pollution didn't exist. 10 or 15 years back we didn't have really a pollution crisis in Nepal. But because of the growing cities, as soon as cities starts to grow, we have massive pollution problem because you generate quite a lot of waste. Within pollution, the significant part is plastic pollution because as you see this, we clicked in 2017 in our landfill site in Sistol, and you can see it's all plastic. There's literally plastic mixed with all kind of other materials, and plastic doesn't decompose by itself. It will take at least 300 to, I don't know, maybe 1,000 years to just decompose. And it will obviously release all the toxic materials in the soil. Within plastic, we don't have problem with the entire range of plastic. The problem is just with single-use plastic for now, for us. Like when I talk about for us, as in terms of recycling, and even in terms of general environment. Like For example, if we wouldn't have single-use plastic, we wouldn't have so much of problem, in the market, in our context right now. So single-use plastic are generally non-recyclable. It's very difficult to recycle, and there's no incentive to recycle for us. For example, we consume so many noodles, we consume chocolates, we consume so many things in our daily lives, but those plastic, they're non-recyclable. It's like we cannot do anything about that. So most of the plastic, these single-use plastics, they land up either it's littered around, or people burn it, or it's sent to landfill, or it's just dumped in our rivers or wherever possible. And the biggest polluters in this is plastic bags, disposable items, bottles, food wrappers, tobacco products, and parcels. So these are very common products, I think, which most of us use. And I think it's time that we become aware about, our own habits, because unless we don't become aware about our own habits, it's not going to change. Littering. Even this is because in our culture we were never taught, like, nobody told us, like, you shouldn't throw things on the roads or wherever you are, you should keep it in pockets. So that culture was missing when we were growing up, actually. So we feel it's because of unconscious behavior, lack of infrastructure. Even if you have to throw, we don't find bins easily. Like, we walk around, we'll never find bins where to throw. And ineffective penalty system, because if MAPSE can work in our country, like, for example, then even something like that, with a penalty system, if you catch people, it might work. Without penalty system, it's very difficult to work around. These problems are not so difficult to solve, we feel. Raising awareness is actually going to mass media, because right now people really don't know about all this problem. So let them be first aware about the problem. Street bins, public signage, these are very basic, which another Palika should do, but till now it's not being done. Strict regulation monitoring, I hope this comes in near future. Burning of waste is another big problem in our country. We are already facing with so much of pollution, and burning contributes to 5 to 10% in this pollution right now. So burning you often see around your neighborhood, but more than that, what happens is, as soon as we go outside the valley, Ring Road, so outside valley, there's no collection system like what we get inside the valley. So people don't have an option what to do with your waste. So they start burning the waste, especially plastic, paper. They burn it, and it contributes to the entire air pollution. And municipalities have the sole responsibility to enforce such kind of ban, in open burning. We found an example in India, one of the cities, where people took photos. So everyone has Viber and WhatsApp. So what they did is, whenever a person would see people burning waste, they would just click, and they would send to municipality. And they had a kind of like a patrol van, which would immediately go over there and catch people or put some kind of fine. So this was very effective, and they controlled burning. So we might have to find our own solution, but since Kathmandu itself, or let's say the whole cities are not so big, I'm sure if people try, we can find solutions, Electronic waste, as I said, electronic waste is a big problem, because electronic waste is very complex. In terms of just one smartphone would have 17 heavy metals. Heavy metals are something which are very rare in nature, and it needs proper, let's say, recycling facility to take it out from your phones. So normally right now what has happened is China and India has put a ban in import of electronic waste. So we can't even import in China or India. So we have to look for a third country to recycle them. So we ourselves, we are working out with a Japanese company and a company in Belgium. So try to export the waste. But what happens is Nepal has regulations that you cannot export these kind of waste, or internationally it's very difficult to export hazardous or electronic waste by law itself. So there's quite a lot of complication in electronic waste, but at the same time there's quite a lot of opportunity in electronic waste, because you have all these rare materials in it. So there's no collection system right now. It's all being collected by informal channels right now all over Nepal, and it's illegally being sent to India generally. which is a loss for us, but at the same time, people just cherry pick items from electronic waste. They just pick items which are valuable, and the rest items, they might just dump it. The easiest way of extracting things out of electronic waste is by burning them. So when you burn, you kind of extract some good materials out of it, but whatever is left over, the residue, you just leave it in the soil. So that is a big problem, because if you leave it, because people really don't care, because they work in margins, very low margins. So for them, it's not really much about environment or recycling. So that's a problem. What do we do with negative recycling? So recycling itself is a business because it has to sustain itself. There has to be some business model where people can generate revenue out of it. But there are so many items in electronic waste which kind of has a negative recycling value, which means if you recycle them, you'll kind of have some kind of loss instead of making any money. So why would a private party ever think about recycling electronic waste? Because if it kind of gives you loss, then how will you do it? So that is a big problem, but still we are trying to get few of the machines which can actually take like mercury containing lamps, so bulbs and old mercury. So there's a bulb eater. If you put that in, that will separate the glass part and the mercury part out of it. Glass can be recycled, mercury could be again sold to the market. So there are machines which can solve, but at the same time there's no benefit in running these kind of systems. But still, as a recycler, it comes to our responsibility to at least try and solve some of the problems. But we'll look forward to support from agencies who would want to solve this problem. Like it's again come back to government. Segregation of waste. So this is the key solution we feel. Segregation wherever possible, at your home, at hotels, anywhere. Segregation, once we start segregating waste, the problem of waste will solve at least by some inch, Because until unless we don't segregate, we cannot really solve the problem of waste. That is, I think, pretty clear. And that's what Western societies till now they follow. They segregate their waste very properly and very diligently. So that's why it's so efficient. We find till now in Nepal, none of the municipalities or any private parties have actually started this kind of service. So we kind of wanted to work with Parkare Naya, like Nirvachit Nagarpalika Pramukharu. We tried to contact them and we wanted to work with them, but it's so difficult to actually implement a new system when there's already old system. Like how do you put a new system when there's a system which has been running for years? So that is a big challenge for us. The best possible way is no segregation, no collection. If you don't segregate waste at your home, we don't collect your waste. So that is the best solution which many cities around the world follow. So that is something which even a small private party out here, the collector starts, people will follow, as in other waste management collectors, they will also follow. The way forward, what we feel is mass awareness. As I said in the beginning, if we, till now the government or any of the government entity hasn't really worked on waste management in terms of awareness, in terms of, okay, I'll just wrap it up fast. In terms of creating that awareness in the market. So what we feel, you have so many mediums, TV, FM, social medias, all these mediums could be used to raise the awareness. Policy level, we have so many things to talk about because it's a whole new chapter. Sustainability, it's a big term right now. It's not affordable right now. If you talk about sustainability, means green products, which means expensive. So there's a market in it. How do you make sustainable products cheap? That's a big challenge in our country right now. Even if you talk about, let's say, organic soaps, these are like 300 rupees a piece. How can you make that in 20, 30 rupees? Because we have to find solutions in these kind of problems. EPR, I think we spoke about EPR in the other hall also. EPR is extended producer responsibility. This means if I'm an importer of this laptop, it's my responsibility to collect it back after its use, So that is something which we want to implement, and our context. We also would advise a landfill tax or pollution tax so that the waste is not being sent to landfills, which right now is happening in big quantity. So this is how our value chain looks like in recycling sector right now in Kathmandu Valley. We have around 13,000 plus 2,500 local scrap collectors who work in recycling sector, and they pass on the recyclables to small scrap dealers, large scrap dealers, and then it goes to industry. We are trying to put the source segregation in place in all these institutions so that it helps the entire value chain, not just us, but other people in the value chain. That's it from the presentation side. How much time do we have? No, so I have a short video, but it might take some time. 127. Or actually, should I skip the video? We can take questions actually, because that is around 15 minutes at least. I won't play 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Long was
त हामी यही कन्क्लुड गरौँ।
Yeah, I could take
ल त
questions.
उहाँले आफ्नो प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्नुभयो। अब तपाईहरुकोमा फोरममा क्वेशन आन्सरको लागि राखिदिएको छ। तपाईको क्वेशन छ भने कसै कलेक्सन गर्ने क्वेशन। ल जसको क्वेशन छ उहाँले हात उठाउनुस् अनि हाम्रो चाहिँ प्रेजेन्टरले चाहिँ आन्सर दिनुपर्छ।
Waste. There's so much to talk about. I'm sure we have questions. Yes. Sorry?
Outside.
Yes, yes.
So Doko Recycler value oriented हो कि outside value पनि हजुर?
अहिलेको लागि हामी भ्यालीमा मात्र छौँ, तर in future in next 2019 हामी most probably भ्याली बाहिर पनि जान्छौँ, तर we are trying to work in a very create an efficient model at least in the valley, and so that people can copy it outside the valley also. So that is an opportunity which is open because अहिले नयाँ नगरपालिका बनेको छ, and every नगरपालिका has this problem of waste. So they are looking for people to kind of come in and help them, but bureaucratic process भने अलिकति it's challenging. Yeah. Yeah.
सो तपाईँले गर्नु भएको छ नि हैन
Yeah.
त्यसमा चाहिँ अहिले मैले रिसर्च गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ प्राय बडीमा चाहिँ सानो प्रब्लम भनेको चाहिँ स्यानिटरी प्याड्स एन्ड डाइपर्स
Yes.
त्यसमा चाहिँ के गर्नुहुन्छ हजुरहरूले
So मैले सुरुमै भनेको थिएँ वेस्टको तीनटा पार्ट छ. So one is recyclable, one is organic waste which can be composted, मल बनाउन सक्यो. Third category is trash, which means you cannot really do anything about it. So sanitary pad, napkins, medical waste, all this has to end up in landfill. There's no other solution, not just in Nepal, but even in outside countries. So that's where the part comes sustainability products, as in reusable pads, reusable diapers. That was our old traditions, but which is not followed anymore. That's the solution, or we have to come up with eco-friendly products in future. So there's a problem, there's a gap.
I have one
Sure.
quick question. Though I was late in your presentation, thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question is, we talk about healthcare waste. There is no, segregation of healthcare waste in our country. They try to mix with the general waste. So when you mix the healthcare waste with the general waste, the whole waste volume becomes infectious or hazardous in nature. So from the Doko perspective, what you have thought about the management of the healthcare waste, because that has become a burden for the country, and it's become a great challenge in even the managing and in even the disposal.
Yeah, so we are kind
So
of...
how you are, have you
Yes.
encountered those kind of
Yes,
problems in your
definitely.
management
Last
system?
1.5 years, हामीले tons of hospitals visit गरिसक्यो because they call us and they have waste problem, medical waste, and it's a very it's so disgusting how it's being handled right now. It's like many people are just digging a dip, as in khanera, and just putting it there because recently government incinerators ban gardecha within the city, so they are looking for solutions. And we kind of we worked in this sector we found it very challenging in terms of to wasteline manage you need a very heavy infrastructure. So that is a big challenge in the sector. So until unless someone supports in terms of infrastructure, like proper sanitized factory where you can bring all the waste, incinerate half of them, what is medical, and recycle the rest of the materials, that is a proper solution. But it might
You know,
take some
like
time.
there is a policy mismatch in the government decisions.
Yeah.
If you look into the banning of incinerator or ban of open, burning,
Yeah.
now government has a ambient air quality standard, okay, emission standard. Below that, you are supposed to release the, effluents, okay, but the emission. But the thing is, government banned it, so there is a contradictory between the government standard and the government policy. If you ban the open burning or kind of incinerator, what sort of solution you have for the management of healthcare waste? You have only the option is like kind of new technology, kind of alkaline hydrolysis, which is very expensive. So when you come up with the policy in, especially in the waste management sector, we need to look closely the policy and the emerging technology. Those kind of mismatch are happening in the country, and people are become furious, and the waste management is happening in a proper manner. That's our quick observation from the.
Yeah, I see the complexity of waste management, especially medical waste, because incinerators banned, we didn't find a solution in between. We didn't propose alternate solution, and right now also, like we ourselves today also, we have a second half month, we have a meeting for incinerators, like to import or get some kind of incinerators, not for city, but outside the city. The Valley Vitrakolai, I think we have to follow a model which is in India, Delhi Mountain. Like central collection, you get it to a system, and it's a state facility where you kind of recycle or dispose of it.
Like we did research for the last 30 years in solid waste and healthcare waste management system. We know the pros and cons of incinerator, and we know you talking about the central treatment facility. We worked 6 years in developing a central treatment facility. So what is not working in this country is a proper policy, and incinerator itself is not a bad idea. If you burn the waste in certain temperature, and if your ambient air is clean, then there is no harm in using incinerator. But your ambient air is not clean, it's polluted, and you are not using clean fuel, then that becomes more hazardous. So you need to look from the ambient air perspective and the use of incinerator. Like in United States, if the ambient air is clean, they give a green kind of advisory. If the ambient air is polluted, they give a kind of red advisory. So that sort of mechanism needs to be embedded and included into our policy as well. So those were some of
waste,
my observations.
Yes, completely agree. Waste sector itself, if you think about it, sabai stakeholder na miligina, it's not, you cannot solve it, because it includes the local government, it includes central government, it includes policy level, people. So it's a very complex system, but at least there are people right now who are working. Like for example, there are many private parties, there are startups who are coming up, including us, Khali CC and Blue Waste. So the whole growing ecosystem is a very good thing. So I hope there's more solutions in the coming days. Yes.
तपाईहरुले इवेस्ट कलेक्ट गर्नुहुन्छ हैन र तपाईहरुले इवेस्टलाई कसरी ह्यान्डल गर्नुहुन्छ किन तपाईले एक्सपोर्ट त गर्न पाउनुहुन्छ
So when you come to our facility right now, we're storing all the e-waste. So what we do is e-waste kholda with you. Suppose we open a laptop or a motherboard or let's say CPU. So test part we take out all the parts which can be recycled, like for example aluminum bio, copper bio. So all these items we take it out, we send it to factories within Nepal. But other materials like PCB board, which is very complex, like CRT monitors, the old design monitors. So there's no solution, we just keep it for now. And in future, we are already in talks with Banami, who will take it, but we need to go through legal channels. So once we have, there's no money requirement, if you have to export, it requires minimum 10 tons. 10 tons is pretty huge in terms of sending it. So once we meet the requirement, then we'll start probably looking with the legal channels. So, yes.
Plastic pollution is a problem. Plastic is not a problem, I think. We prefer management and then we call it. And there is a different type of plastic also. Not only the thermoplastic and pharmaceutical plastic. So how do you manage all the plastics in your?
So, frankly speaking, plastic waste itself is very complex, and I feel like it has been a very steep learning curve. So plastic may, like if we go to a local kabadi wala, they segregate plastic into like 400 types, grades, colors, varieties, and we still don't have that knowledge, because we understand plastic in 7 grades, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But recycling sector ma त्यसरी काम हुँदैन रहेछ. They have to sort it as per color, they have to sort it as per the quality, grade. So it's a very complex system, and mostly plastic is not recycled in the same form. It's actually downcycled. Downcycled means when you reduce the quality of plastic. Suppose PET, not PET, but other kind of good plastics, you convert into pipes and all. So it's kind of downcycled. So most industries in Nepal, they rely on these kind of techniques. They get all kind of plastic, mix it up, and they kind of make pipes and all other kind of items. So plastic itself, frankly saying, there's quite a lot of problem, and what we want to come up with is problems which don't have solutions, like wrappers, like non-recyclable plastics. So we are more focused on that because other plastics are still going in the stream to the factories and they're getting recycled in some way. So our focus is towards other kind of waste. Yeah. Oh, that's it. All right. Thank you everyone for your valuable time.
धन्यवाद राघवेन्द्र महतो ज्यू तपाईको